Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, 24th of March, and here in Wollongong, we're pretty much into our first serious week of social distancing and staying at home, I guess, due to the coronavirus here in 2020. So, Lynn and I thought it'd be a good idea if we put a couple of YouTube clips together every week or so just to record what's been going on. We pretty much didn't hear much about the coronavirus till the end of December, I guess, here in Australia. It's been a particularly difficult couple of months. We had a long drought, which was getting really serious towards Christmas. And then we were hit with bushfires right down the east coast and across Australia. So it was quite a surreal summer break for us. You'd go to bed and get up in the morning and there'd be ash everywhere, and because of the water restrictions from the drought, you couldn't hose off outdoor furniture, and it just seemed to be it was a difficult period. And then the coronavirus started moving around the world, and I think it was pretty much middle of January that we got our first reported cases here in Australia. And I probably should, at this stage, insert a little bit about our government here in Australia, the Morrison government. Probably not as authoritarian as China or the USA, but still right wing and very much focused on the economy and the movement of money in and out of the people that got them elected, and very little focus on the society in which we live. So, for example, there were programs that the government bragged about, National Disability Insurance Scheme, where they pledged billions of dollars and then never spent the money, but then bragged about how they were approaching a budget surplus. So we very much had a government that didn't really relate to the people who lived in Australia at the time. That's purely a personal opinion, but I think it played out in the lacklustre response over the next few months. Some years ago, during the AIDS epidemic, Australia responded really well. The government at the time put the control of our response to AIDS in the hands of doctors and medicos who understood the transmission of the disease, and the response was really well done, probably as good as anywhere in the world. This time, the government decided that they would control the response with the federal government and the heads of states, despite the fact that there was medical advice saying you need to act now really quickly if you want to prevent the spread of this. The government seemed to be more interested in assuring people that they would still control the economy over the next few weeks, if not months. So gradually, the virus entered into Australia primarily by people coming here from other countries. Wuhan, the centre of the disease in China, we were one of the last places in the world that allowed a plane full of people to arrive from Wuhan into Australia. Cruise ships were disembarking passengers, and really there was no effort put into social distancing or understanding really what makes a virus spread. So fast forward now till probably the middle of March, and Friday the 13th, which is only not even 2 weeks ago now, was the date that the Australian Grand Prix was supposed to start at in Melbourne, down in Victoria. And as late as Friday morning, there were thousands of people lining up to enter the Grand Prix. And the news readers were saying, is it on? Is it off? Someone needs to make a stance here. Now, unbeknownst to everybody, the Formula One community had met in the evening before and cancelled the race. Two of the top drivers are already on the way home, but it took until about 9:30 in the morning till they officially announced that the event firstly would be run behind closed gates, and then half an hour later that, oh no, in fact it's been cancelled. And that kind of is how the response has been in Australia. It's always been lagging the need for leadership. So on that Friday the 13th, the government met with the state leaders, and our Prime Minister announced that not that day, but from the start of the next week, he would ban gatherings of 500 people or more, which was ludicrous. He needed to socially distance people there and then on the day. And it was interesting, the rugby league competition was starting that night, and his team, the Sharks, were playing, and he famously said, well, I'll be going to the footy. And by that afternoon, he'd had to backtrack on that statement and didn't go to the footy, but still allowed all sorts of sports events, church services, all sorts of things over the weekend with many more than 500 people. And then on the Monday, when the 500 people ban instituted, I think people realised already they really needed to stop mass gatherings. So then it became no more than 100 people. And then fast forward to this week, and the governments, state and federal, have had to come out and start closing schools, closing non-essential services. Too little, too late. They're lagging, and people have no faith in what the government is able to tell them, and that's just the government we've got at the moment, I guess. So Lynn and I have, for the last few days, basically stayed at home pretty much as we can, apart from when we had to go out to just get some shopping. We're going to try and minimise the amount of time we do that, so we're pretty much socially isolated. Australians as a community haven't responded well. In the early weeks of the announcement of the coronavirus, people raided the shopping centres, and within days you couldn't get toilet paper, for heaven's sake. I remember sitting in a cafe listening to one lady telling her friends how on the way to work she stopped in and bought 48 rolls of toilet paper for the outside toilet and 48 rolls for the inside toilet. And I'm thinking 96 rolls of toilet paper would last Lynn and I a year and a half. And that's the problem. The shelves were bare of meat, toilet paper, pasta, soap, anything that people could hoard. And it was quite eerie. We walk into our local Woolworths, and where we walk in, the first part of the shop is fresh bread, fruit, vegetables. All of those aisles were full, chock-a-block full of good, healthy food, but not the sort of stuff that comes in cans or plastic packets that you can hoard or put in a freezer. Move around a little bit, and then no meat. Heaven's sake, no soda water. Anything that could be accumulated, people have done. Now, come forward a few weeks until today, and that's slowly starting to get back to normal, mainly because Australia does not have a shortage of food. What Australia can't do is put enough food on the shelves for hundreds, if not thousands of people to panic buy and hoard, and that's what they've done. So pretty disappointing, but so that's where we are. We're towards the end of March. We're in social distancing. As recently as this weekend, the government of New South Wales allowed a cruise ship to dock in Sydney and disembark 3,000 people. And 3 days later, we hear that 135 of those people have been tested and found to have the coronavirus, and one poor lady's already died. That's the level of inadequate government that we have. Pretty disappointing, actually. So what I'll do is I'll keep these blogs going as we progress.